How does one define talent? A skill built over time, through hard work, from genetics. When you see someone who's better than you at something you're interested in, someone who's gifted with talent that seem unattainable through hard work, how does that affect you? Does it make you want to quit and give up? I personally have faced this once. During my 4th grade year until my 7th grade year, I had a friend that was better than me at everything we've done. Running miles, taking tests, he was always faster, scored higher, had better humor, and always made people laugh. Even if he didn't know it was competition, I always tried to compete with him, but always failed. How hard I tried, I only made people cringe when I tried to be funny. I always had the lower score and was always slower. He was naturally better, I thought. There was a gap there that I couldn't close, and since then, I've done almost everything half-hearted, only doing the bare minimum. And the only thing I could tell myself was, I was just too lazy to do it. If I really wanted to try, I could do it. But those words were nothing but a mere excuse for myself. So I didn't have to face defeat and see my best efforts be surpassed. I couldn't climb that wall, so I only looked at it and admired it from afar and envied this person through the shadows. Quite similar to the relationship Satoshi and Oreki have. Friends since middle school, Satoshi and Oreki have an understanding of each other's ability and lifestyle. Satoshi being a member of multiple clubs, hardworking, and an introvert. Oreki being the complete opposite, having a gray-colored life, introverted, and reserves his energy only to exert effort when necessary. But when he does decide to attempt something, he always ends up exceeding Satoshi's expectations, to the point where Satoshi ends up envying him for his ability to deduct and draw conclusions to the many mysteries throughout the anime. A quote Satoshi said about himself: "A database can't draw conclusions." He thinks that he can only find the pieces to the puzzle, but can never put them together. He thinks that he can't put them together because he's a database. That illusion that he set up for himself, a possible excuse, so he doesn't have to draw out conclusions, because he knows that Oreki can solve the puzzle and draw justified conclusions better than he can. So Satoshi simply doesn't want to do it, because he knows that he would just be outdone by Oreki, so he becomes the database, in order to not compete with him and lose, and just to envy his capabilities from afar. But the thing that hurts the most is Oreki's unawareness of this, his own talent, that puts Satoshi's desire to wanting to see him fail, so he experiences self-doubt in his deducting, and to know what his limits are, and understand what he's capable of. Even though Oreki is smart and clever, he tends to be naive whenever he is asked to help someone, as he is constantly dragged into helping Chitanda without refusing, and it made him feel special to be relied on, satisfying her curiosity and giving him positive remarks. And as a lazy, energy-conserving individual, the feeling of being special may be new to him, making him unable to understand it, unable to understand why he can't decline, and entrapped in her curious and persistent demeanor. It could have been anyone that sparked that feeling in him. They just had to push him to an extent so he felt needed, making him vulnerable to being manipulated, which Chitanda kinda did with her straightforward and pressuring behavior, even if it wasn't intended. Oreki's inability to be self-aware causes him to follow others and do what they ask whenever they acknowledge his talent and praise him for it, even though he can't comprehend why he ends up in these situations. And at the same time, that ignorance of talent ends up causing pain for others. People who compare themselves to him, like his friend Satoshi. Because Satoshi knows he doesn't have talent, he doesn't have a skill that is special, watching someone who has talent and doesn't realize it feels terrible. It makes him feel like he's under him and can't be equal with him, losing expectations for himself and resulting in him to believe that expectations are what you have when you've given up. Because when you give up, you end up having expectations for someone else who still tries and succeeds, as he puts his expectations in Oreki rather than to try to meet his own expectation. And I relate a lot with Satoshi in that regard, because it really hurts to be easily surpassed. It's really discouraging, knowing that there's somebody you know who's way better at it than you. It feels as if your efforts just go to waste, but that's just part of life. There's always gonna be someone better than you at everything you do. But in the end, it's your choice to make if you're gonna give up or move forward.